Guaranteed. Your money back if she does satisfy you, dealer said. Cowboy didn't hesitate to buy her. Jack had been traveling for days. The hot Texas sun had burned his shoulders, and the dirt roads had left a trail of dust on his boots and clothes. He had always been a wanderer, a man who loved the freedom of the open plains and the quiet sound of the wind through the tall grass. But this time, he was searching for something different. He didn't know exactly what it was, only that he needed a horse, a special horse that could match his spirit, strong and unyielding, yet gentle for the right rider. As he rode into the small town, he noticed how quiet it was. A few wooden buildings lined the main street, their paint peeling from years of sun and wind. The saloon had a sign that swung lazily in the breeze, and a blacksmith was hammering away at a piece of metal near the corner. The town wasn't bustling, but it had a certain charm. Jack liked towns like this. They were honest and simple, places where a man could find what he was looking for without too many distractions. He made his way to the horse trading post at the edge of town. The building looked ordinary from the outside, with a wide porch and wooden fences enclosing the pens. But Jack had learned long ago that appearances could be deceiving. Some of the best horses he had ever ridden came from places no one would expect. He swung down from his horse and dusted off his coat, his eyes scanning the pens for movement. A man stepped out from behind one of the barns. He was tall and thin, with a weathered face that told stories of years spent in the sun. "Looking for a horse, stranger?" he asked, his voice rough but not unfriendly. "Yes," Jack replied. "Something strong and fast but smart. I need a horse I can trust." The dealer grinned, showing a row of yellow teeth. "Well, I might just have what you're looking for," he said. "Follow me." Jack followed him down the row of pens. Horses of every size and color watched them, their ears twitching at every movement. Some neighed softly, others stamped their hooves impatiently. Jack had ridden hundreds of horses in his life, but he knew that the right one had a certain presence, a kind of spark that set them apart. The dealer stopped in front of a pen at the far end. Inside was a beautiful horse, with a shiny chestnut coat that glimmered in the sunlight. Her mane was long and wild, and her eyes were bright and alert. She looked at Jack with curiosity, as if sizing him up, trying to figure out if he was worthy. "Her name's Bella," the dealer said, "and she comes with a guarantee. If she doesn't satisfy you, I'll take her back, no questions asked." Jack raised an eyebrow. He had heard sales pitches before, and most of them were exaggerations. But something about the horse caught his attention. There was energy in her movements, a kind of fire in her eyes that reminded him of the wide-open plains he loved so much. He had ridden many horses that were calm and obedient, but they didn't have this spirit. "Guaranteed, huh?" he said slowly. "And you're sure she's worth it?" the dealer shrugged. "Worth every penny, but she's not for everyone. Only a man who can handle her will find her true value." Jack chuckled. He liked a challenge. There was no hesitation in his mind. "All right," he said, "I'll take her." The dealer's eyes widened slightly, then he smiled. "You're brave, I'll give you that, or maybe just a little foolish," he said. He handed Jack the reins, and Jack led the horse out of the pen. Bella shifted her weight under him as he mounted, her muscles tense and ready. The first few moments were tricky. She pranced nervously, testing his balance, and Jack had to stay alert. This wasn't a horse that would be controlled with gentle words alone. She needed respect, confidence, and a steady hand. Jack guided her slowly out of the yard and onto the dirt road leading out of town. People stopped to watch as he rode past, some shaking their heads in disbelief. A few whispered to each other, "He's never going to control her." But Jack didn't mind. He had ridden wild horses before, and he knew patience was the key. The first ride was a test of endurance. Bella was strong, her hooves pounding the ground like thunder, and her sudden bursts of speed caught him off guard. Jack held on tightly, feeling the wind whip past his face and the excitement of the challenge. For the first time in days, he felt fully alive, completely focused on the horse beneath him and nothing else in the world. As they rode, Jack studied her movements. She was quick to react, alert to every sound and smell. It was clear she had been trained, but her spirit had never been broken. This was exactly what he wanted, a horse that could be both a partner and a challenge. By the time they returned to the trading post, Jack was smiling, even though he was exhausted. Bella had tested him, yes, but she had also shown flashes of brilliance. There was a connection forming, one that could grow stronger with time. The dealer watched from the porch, his arms crossed. "So," he asked. "Satisfied?" Jack nodded. "She's a handful," he said. "But I like her. I think we'll get along just fine." The dealer grinned. "I thought you might say that. Not everyone sees what she has to offer. Most people just give up after a few tries, but you might just bring out the best in her." Jack untacked the horse and led her back to a quiet corner of the yard. He fed her some grain and gave her water, talking softly to her as he did. She nuzzled his shoulder, and for a moment, Jack felt that this was exactly where he was meant to be. The long journey, the sun, the dust, all of it led to this moment. As evening approached, the sky turned orange and pink, casting a warm glow over the town. Jack sat on the porch, Bella grazing quietly nearby. He didn't know what adventures lay ahead, but he knew one thing for certain. This horse was special, and he was ready to face whatever challenges came with her. That night Jack lay under the stars, listening to the quiet sounds of the town and the soft rustling of Bella's breathing. He thought about the days ahead, riding through open plains, learning each other's habits, growing stronger together. There was a sense of anticipation, a feeling that something extraordinary was beginning. And in that quiet moment, with the world stretched out before him, Jack knew he had made the right choice. The horse, the town, the challenge, it was all exactly what he needed. And though he didn't yet realize it, this was the start of a journey that would test him, teach him, and change his life forever. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and orange. Jack was already up before dawn, tending to Bella. He checked her hooves, brushed her coat, and gave her a light feed. The night had been calm and Bella had rested well, but Jack could tell she was full of energy, eager to test herself once again. He led her out of the yard and onto the wide, open plains beyond the town. The cool morning air brushed against his face, carrying the scent of wild grass and earth. Jack loved mornings like this. The world felt quiet, alive, and full of possibilities. But he also knew that today would be a challenge. Bella was not a horse that could be controlled with simple commands. She was strong, intelligent, and spirited, and she would not hesitate to test him at every turn. As soon as they were a few steps away from the town, Bella started to move faster, her hooves thudding against the soft soil. Jack held the reins tightly, guiding her gently but firmly. She twisted her neck and tried to take off at a run. Jack leaned slightly forward, letting her feel the freedom while keeping control. He had learned that horses like Bella responded better to confidence than force. The first hour was a test of patience and skill. Bella would bolt, slow down, then change direction unexpectedly. Jack had to stay alert, constantly adjusting his weight and balance. His arms ached from holding the reins, and his legs were tired from maintaining his stance, but he refused to give up. Every challenge she presented was also an opportunity to understand her better, to earn her trust. By mid-morning, they had reached a narrow path through a cluster of trees. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating patterns on the ground that made Bella nervous. She slowed, ears flicking at every sound, the rustle of branches, the call of a distant bird, the snapping of twigs under her hooves. Jack spoke to her softly, using a calm voice to reassure her. Slowly, she relaxed, following his lead through the shaded path. For Jack, these small victories were just as important as the big ones. He knew that building trust with a horse like Bella was not about dominance. It was about connection. Every nod of her head, every gentle step she took alongside him, was proof that their bond was growing stronger. By late morning, they reached a small creek that cut through the plains. The water sparkled under the sunlight, and the sound of it trickling over rocks was soothing. Bella paused at the edge, hesitating for a moment before stepping carefully into the shallow water. Jack guided her, letting her know it was safe. Once she realized there was no danger, she splashed playfully, sending droplets into the air. Jack laughed, enjoying the rare moment of lightness. He had faced many wild horses in his life, but few had such personality. Bella was not just a horse. She was a creature with her own spirit, her own mind, and her own will. And Jack respected that. After the creek, they continued their ride, heading toward the hills in the distance. The terrain grew rougher, with uneven ground and scattered rocks. Bella's energy never waned, and Jack had to be careful to guide her over obstacles. She jumped over fallen logs, sidestepped hidden holes, and tested him at every turn. Sometimes she would bolt unexpectedly, forcing Jack to react quickly to regain control. Each time he managed to keep her on track, though his muscles ached and sweat dripped from his forehead. As they climbed higher into the hills, Jack took a moment to look at the view. The plains stretched endlessly, dotted with patches of trees and sparkling creeks. He could see the town in the distance, small and quiet, almost forgotten. Riding here with Bella, he felt a sense of freedom he hadn't experienced in years. But he also knew that the challenge was far from over. The bond he was building would take time, patience, and trust. Around noon, they stopped for a break under the shade of a large oak tree. Jack dismounted and led Bella to a patch of soft grass. He gave her water from a canteen and offered her some feed. She nuzzled his hand, a gesture that Jack had learned to read as a sign of comfort and trust. He scratched behind her ears and spoke to her gently. "You've got spirit, Bella," he said with a smile. "I like that, but we'll need to work together if we're going to be a team." For a moment, they rested in silence. The wind rustled the leaves and distant birds called to each other. Jack thought about the road ahead, the long days of training, the struggles, and the small victories they would share. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he also knew that nothing worth having ever was. After a short rest, Jack mounted Bella again. He guided her down a winding path through the hills, practicing control and responsiveness. He asked her to change pace, turn, and stop at his command. Sometimes she obeyed immediately. Other times she hesitated or tested him by ignoring instructions. Each time Jack responded with patience, using gentle pressure and clear guidance to show her what he expected. By mid-afternoon, they reached a wide open meadow, full of tall grass swaying in the breeze. Jack encouraged Bella to run freely, letting her stretch her legs and release some of her pent-up energy. She galloped across the field with grace and power, and Jack leaned into the ride, feeling the rhythm of her movements. It was exhilarating. As they slowed down to a walk, Jack noticed a group of wild horses in the distance. Bella tensed immediately, her ears flicking toward them. Jack held her gently, speaking in calm tones. "It's okay, girl. They're not a threat." Bella relaxed slightly but kept her eyes on the group. Jack realized that she had instincts that went beyond training. She was alert, cautious, and aware of her surroundings. These were qualities that made her both challenging and remarkable. The afternoon passed with more practice. Jack guided Bella through various exercises, jumping over small obstacles, maneuvering around trees, and responding to voice commands. Each success built their confidence, and each small failure became a lesson. By the time the sun began to dip toward the horizon, both Jack and Bella were tired but satisfied. They returned to the town slowly, moving at a gentle pace. Jack reflected on the day's events, the struggles, the excitement, and the moments of connection. He realized that riding Bella was not just about physical skill. It was about understanding, trust, and communication. She had challenged him, tested his patience, and shown flashes of brilliance, and he had learned to meet her on her level rather than trying to force her into submission. Back at the trading post, the dealer was watching from the porch again. "Looks like you made some progress," he said, a hint of approval in his voice. Jack dismounted and led Bella to a quiet corner. She nuzzled his shoulder and he patted her gently. "Good job today, Bella," he said. "We're going to make a good team, I can feel it." That evening, as Jack cleaned her hooves and prepared her for the night, he felt a sense of accomplishment. The first day had been difficult, but it had also been rewarding. He had started to understand Bella, and she had started to trust him. The bond was growing, and with it, the promise of something extraordinary. As the sun set, painting the sky in deep oranges and purples, Jack sat quietly next to Bella. He thought about the long journey ahead, the days of training, the moments of frustration, and the victories they would share. He knew that the road would not always be easy, but he also knew that this was just the beginning. And in that quiet evening light, with Bella standing calmly by his side, Jack felt a sense of anticipation. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tests, and new opportunities to grow together. But for now they rested, horse and rider, beginning a partnership that neither of them would forget. The next morning, Jack woke to the sound of birds singing and the soft rustle of leaves outside the stable. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of the plains and wildflowers. Bella was already awake, her ears flicking as she watched him move about. Today, Jack knew, would be different. Yesterday had been a day of testing, of understanding her spirit and energy. Today, the real work would begin, the work of turning raw energy into focus and building a connection strong enough to trust each other completely. Jack led Bella out of the stable and onto the open plains. The sun had just risen, casting a warm glow over the grass. He took a deep breath, feeling the calm of the morning. Bella shifted under him, restless, ready to move. Jack knew she had a mind of her own and controlling her wouldn't be easy, but he had learned that patience, not force, was the key. The first hour was challenging. Bella's energy was high, and she tested him at every step. She would start running without warning, twist her neck, or jump sideways as if daring him to react. Jack held on, adjusting his balance and guiding her carefully. Every bolt of energy she released was a test of his patience and his skill. He had faced wild horses before, but Bella was different. She was clever, aware, and unafraid to push boundaries. By mid-morning, Jack had led her to a small wooded area. The shadows from the trees danced on the ground, creating patterns that made Bella nervous. She stopped and stamped her hooves, her ears flicking in all directions. Jack dismounted for a moment, letting her calm down. He spoke to her softly, in a voice filled with reassurance. Slowly she relaxed, allowing him to guide her through the trees. It was in moments like these that Jack realized the depth of her intelligence. Bella wasn't just reacting. She was thinking, analyzing, deciding when to test him and when to obey. Most horses he had ridden were easier to manage, but none had challenged him mentally like she did. And that challenge excited him. It made him feel alive, pushing him to be better, to think faster, and to remain calm under pressure. After the woods, they reached a narrow stream. Bella approached cautiously, sensing the water and the rocks beneath. Jack guided her slowly, letting her find the safest steps. Once she realized there was no danger, she splashed playfully, sending droplets into the air. Jack laughed, the sound echoing softly across the plains. These moments were rewards, small victories that reminded him why he had chosen her. As the day progressed, Jack began more intense exercises. He asked Bella to respond to his commands more precisely, to stop on cue, to turn sharply, and to maintain a steady pace even when distractions appeared. Sometimes she obeyed immediately, but often she resisted, testing his consistency. Each time she did, Jack remained patient, repeating commands calmly until she understood. It was tiring work, both physically and mentally, but it was necessary. The bond they were forming required mutual respect, and he would not rush it. Around midday, the sun climbed high and the heat grew intense. Jack stopped in the shade of a large oak tree to rest. He gave Bella water and some feed, watching her eat carefully. She nuzzled his hand and he patted her gently. "Good girl," he said. "We're learning. And we'll get there." Resting in the shade, Jack reflected on the journey so far. Bella was not an ordinary horse. She was spirited, clever, and sometimes stubborn, but she also had moments of brilliance that reminded him why he had chosen her. Every challenge, every test was shaping them both, building a partnership that would only grow stronger with time. After a short break, they continued their training. Jack guided Bella over uneven ground, making her navigate rocks and fallen logs. She hesitated at first, uncertain, but gradually gained confidence as Jack remained patient and encouraging. He could feel her trust growing, even in small ways, how she responded to subtle cues, how she glanced at him for guidance, and how she stayed closer when she might have bolted. By late afternoon, Jack decided it was time for something more challenging. He led Bella to a steep hill, one that required careful balance and coordination. Bella was cautious, sensing the difficulty ahead. Jack spoke calmly, guiding her step by step. She moved slowly at first, testing the ground, then gradually gained confidence. When they reached the top, both horse and rider were tired but triumphant. Jack looked out over the plains, feeling a sense of pride. Bella had faced the challenge and they had faced it together. The day was far from over. As they descended the hill, Bella suddenly spooked at a rustling in the bushes. She bolted forward, her hooves pounding the ground. Jack held on, using all his skill to regain control. The sudden rush of adrenaline made his heart race, but he stayed calm, speaking to her in a steady voice. Slowly, she slowed down, allowing him to guide her back to a controlled pace. Moments like these reminded Jack of the importance of trust. Bella needed to know he was steady, confident, and reliable, and he needed to understand her instincts, her reactions, and her limits. Each experience was a lesson, not just in riding but in partnership and communication. By evening, they returned to the town. Jack dismounted and led Bella to a quiet corner of the yard. She nuzzled him gently and he patted her head. "You did well today," he said. "We've both learned a lot." The dealer watched from the porch, nodding approvingly. "You're making progress faster than I expected," he said. "Most people would have given up by now." Jack smiled. "She's not an ordinary horse," he said, "and I'm not an ordinary rider. We're going to make a good team." That night Jack lay under the stars, thinking about the day's struggles and successes. Bella was resting nearby, calm and quiet. He reflected on their journey, the moments of tension, the moments of triumph, and the small gestures of trust that were forming between them. He knew the road ahead would not be easy. There would be more tests, more challenges, and moments of doubt. But he also knew that the bond they were building was strong enough to overcome any obstacle. Sleep came slowly as Jack thought about the lessons learned. Patience, trust, and understanding were more important than skill alone. Bella had taught him that, and he had begun to understand her in ways no one else could. The partnership they were forming was rare, a connection that went beyond simple riding. It was a bond of respect, courage, and shared experience. By the time the sun rose again, Jack was ready for another day of training. Bella seemed to sense it as well, moving with quiet confidence as he led her out of the stable. Each day brought new challenges, new tests, and new opportunities to grow together. And with every passing moment, Jack realized that choosing Bella had been more than a decision. It had been the start of an adventure, a journey that would change both their lives forever. The following morning, the air was unusually cool, and a soft mist hung over the plains. Jack had sensed it might be a difficult day. Bella had been energetic and unpredictable the day before, and today he knew he had to push their training to a new level. But as he looked at her, he also knew that today could be a turning point, the moment when patience, understanding, and trust would be tested like never before. They began their morning as usual, walking slowly through the open fields. Bella's hooves made soft impressions in the damp earth. Jack kept a close eye on her, noting every twitch of her ears, every flick of her tail. He had learned over the past few days that she was intelligent, and she would test him whenever she sensed uncertainty or hesitation. It was part of her nature, and part of what made her remarkable. After a few hours, Jack decided it was time for a more challenging exercise. He wanted Bella to navigate a steep, rocky path that wound up a hill on the edge of the plains. The path was narrow, littered with loose stones and uneven ground. Most horses would hesitate or even refuse to climb it. Jack knew that for Bella, it would be a true test of courage, skill, and trust. As they approached the base of the hill, Bella stiffened, her muscles tense, and she stomped the ground impatiently. Jack could feel her energy surge through the reins. "It's okay, girl," he said softly. "I'll guide you. We can do this together." Step by step, they began the climb. Bella was cautious, testing each stone with her hooves. At first, she moved slowly, hesitant, glancing back at Jack as if seeking reassurance. He kept his voice calm and his movements steady, showing her that he was confident and reliable. They climbed a little higher, but then Bella suddenly balked. She refused to take another step, lowering her head and planting her hooves firmly. Jack sighed, realizing that this was more than just a physical challenge. Bella was testing him, measuring whether he had the patience and persistence to see it through. He dismounted and approached her slowly, speaking in a gentle tone. "I know it's hard," he said, "but we can do this together, trust me. I won't let anything happen to you." For a few long moments she stayed still, her eyes wide and alert. Jack knelt beside her, offering reassurance. Slowly, almost reluctantly, Bella lifted a hoof and stepped forward. Jack guided her carefully, praising her with soft words each time she moved a little further. As they neared the top of the hill, the climb became steeper, and the loose stones made it treacherous. Bella's confidence wavered, and she tried to bolt sideways down the slope. Jack held on tightly, leaning with her movements and keeping his balance. It was exhausting both physically and mentally. His arms ached, his legs burned, and sweat ran down his face. But he remained calm, knowing that panic would only make things worse. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached the top. Jack exhaled in relief, feeling a surge of pride. Bella stood tall, her chest heaving but her eyes bright with achievement. For a moment, they both just looked out over the plains, feeling the quiet triumph of overcoming such a difficult challenge. But the day was far from over. As they began to descend the hill, a sudden noise from the nearby forest startled Bella. She bolted forward, almost losing her footing on the loose stones. Jack reacted quickly, leaning into her movements, speaking calmly and gently guiding her back onto a safer path. His heart raced, but he did not panic. He knew that showing fear or hesitation would only make her more nervous. Once they were on level ground, Jack stopped to let Bella catch her breath. He patted her neck and spoke softly. "You're learning, girl," he said. "We're learning together, that's what matters." By midday, Jack decided to take a break in a shaded grove near a small creek. Bella drank eagerly, her nostrils flaring as she calmed down. Jack ate a small meal and rested against a tree, reflecting on the morning's events. He realized that the challenges they had faced were not just tests of skill, they were tests of patience, courage, and trust. Bella was teaching him as much as he was teaching her. The afternoon brought another series of exercises, this time focusing on control and responsiveness. Jack asked Bella to navigate tight turns, change pace on command, and respond to subtle cues from his body and voice. At first, she resisted, ignoring his instructions or testing him with sudden bursts of speed. Each time, Jack stayed calm, repeating his commands patiently, rewarding her with praise and gentle encouragement when she succeeded. Hours passed, and both horse and rider grew tired, but something remarkable began to happen. Bella's movements became more fluid, more responsive. She began to anticipate Jack's instructions, responding with subtle adjustments before he even spoke. It was as if a new understanding had emerged between them, a silent communication built on trust and shared experience. Around late afternoon, Jack decided to try one final exercise. He led Bella to a wide open field dotted with small obstacles, fallen logs, shallow ditches, and uneven patches of grass. He wanted to see if she could move freely while still maintaining control and focus. Bella approached cautiously at first, but Jack's calm guidance reassured her. Step by step, she began to navigate the field with grace and confidence, responding to every subtle cue from Jack. By the time the sun began to set, painting the sky in deep oranges and purples, Jack felt a sense of accomplishment he had never known before. Bella had challenged him, tested his patience, and pushed him to his limits. And in return, he had guided her, protected her, and earned her trust. Together, they had overcome the obstacles of the day, both literally and figuratively. As they walked back to the town, Jack reflected on the journey so far. Bella was more than a horse. She was a partner, a teacher, and a companion. She had forced him to confront his own limits, to remain calm under pressure, and to communicate with patience and clarity. And in doing so, she had shown him that true partnership was built not on control, but on understanding and trust. That evening, Jack led Bella to a quiet corner of the yard. He untacked her slowly, checking her hooves and brushing her coat. She nuzzled his hand, a silent gesture of gratitude and recognition. Jack smiled, feeling a deep sense of connection. "We've come a long way today," he said softly. "Tomorrow we'll go even further." As the stars appeared in the night sky, Jack sat quietly next to Bella, reflecting on the day's struggles and successes. He realized that the challenges they had faced were more than physical. They were emotional and mental tests that required patience, trust, and courage. And through it all, Bella had remained a constant, intelligent, and spirited partner. He thought about the days ahead, the long hours of training, and the moments of doubt that would surely come. But he also knew that the bond they had formed was strong enough to endure any challenge. Bella had taught him lessons he would never forget, and he had learned to listen, to observe, and to respond with patience and care. As sleep approached, Jack felt a sense of peace. The day had been difficult, yes, but it had also been transformative. Bella was no longer just a horse. She was a partner, a friend, and a challenge that he welcomed with every ounce of his being. And as he drifted off under the quiet night sky, he knew that tomorrow would bring new lessons, new tests, and new moments of triumph that would continue to shape their journey together. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting a golden glow across the plains. Jack woke early as usual and went straight to the stable where Bella was already waiting. Over the past days, they had faced countless challenges, struggled through difficult terrain, and learned to trust one another. Today, Jack felt a sense of anticipation. Something was different. There was a feeling in the air, a sense that all their hard work, patience, and determination was about to bear fruit. He led Bella out into the open fields, letting her stretch her legs. The breeze was cool and refreshing, carrying the smell of grass and earth. Bella moved with a calm confidence now, her movements smooth and steady. Jack could feel the difference immediately. Gone were the moments of hesitation, the sudden bursts of panic, and the testy refusals to obey commands. She had grown, and so had he. Together, they had built something rare, a bond built on trust, patience, and understanding. Jack decided to begin the day with a familiar route, the hills and creeks that had challenged them before. It was time to test how far they had come. As they climbed the first hill, Bella moved confidently, her hooves firm on the uneven ground. Jack guided her carefully, but there was no tension between them now. Every movement was harmonious, a silent conversation that required no words. He smiled to himself. This was the result of days of struggle, lessons learned, and trust earned. At the top of the hill, they paused to catch their breath. The view stretched endlessly, the plains dotted with patches of wildflowers and sparkling creeks. Jack looked at Bella, her chest heaving slightly, her eyes bright with energy and focus. "You've done well, girl," he said softly. "All this hard work has paid off." The descent from the hill was easier this time. Bella navigated the rocky path carefully, following Jack's subtle guidance. Where she had once spooked or bolted, she now moved confidently, adjusting her steps with precision. Jack felt a sense of pride that was hard to put into words. They had faced fear, frustration, and uncertainty together, and had come out stronger on the other side. As they reached the creek, Jack decided it was time for a more exciting test. He wanted Bella to move freely but remain responsive. He encouraged her to gallop across the open plains, her mane flying in the wind. Bella obeyed with energy and grace, her powerful legs carrying her swiftly over the soft grass. Jack leaned forward, feeling the rhythm of her movements, the harmony between horse and rider. It was exhilarating. After several laps, they slowed to a walk, and Jack guided her toward a small grove of trees. Here, he practiced sharp turns, stops, and quick changes of pace. Bella responded immediately to every command, her intelligence and energy balanced perfectly with focus and discipline. Jack could see the pride in her eyes as well, a recognition that she had grown and learned alongside him. By midday, they rested near a large oak tree. Jack gave Bella water and a small feed, and she nuzzled his shoulder in a gesture that spoke more than words ever could. He scratched behind her ears gently, reflecting on how far they had come. The wild, spirited horse he had first met days ago had transformed, not completely tamed, but guided and understood. And in the process, he had changed too. He had learned patience, empathy, and the importance of trust. The afternoon brought new challenges. Jack decided to try some obstacles that they had struggled with before: fallen logs, uneven patches of grass, and shallow ditches. Bella approached each with calm determination. Where she had once hesitated or bolted, she now paused briefly, evaluated, and moved forward with confidence. Jack guided her subtly, and they moved through each obstacle together, smoothly and efficiently. It was as if the struggles of the past days had melted away, replaced by harmony and understanding. As the sun began to lower in the sky, casting a warm orange light over the plains, Jack led Bella to the wide meadow where they had first allowed her to run freely. He encouraged her once again, letting her stretch her legs in a gallop. She ran with joy, powerful and free, yet attentive to Jack's guidance. There was no tension now, no testing, no fear, only trust, partnership, and mutual respect. Jack allowed himself a moment to pause and simply watch. The bond they had built was extraordinary. It had not been formed overnight. It had taken days of patience, persistence, and understanding. They had faced fear, frustration, and uncertainty together. They had struggled and failed at times, but they had always returned to trust and determination. And now, at this moment, Jack knew that the journey had reached a turning point. Bella was no longer just a horse. She was a partner, a companion, and a friend. As they walked back toward the town, Jack reflected on the journey. The initial day when he had bought her without hesitation had seemed like a gamble. The struggles, the falls, the moments of doubt, they had all tested him. But the rewards had been far greater than he could have imagined. Bella had taught him lessons about patience, courage, and trust, and he had given her the guidance, consistency, and understanding she needed to flourish. Together, they had grown stronger. By the time they reached the stable, the town was bathed in the soft glow of the evening sun. Jack untacked Bella and led her to a quiet corner. He brushed her coat, checking her hooves and giving her water. She nuzzled him again and he smiled. "We've done it, girl," he said. "We've made it through the hard days, and look at us now." The dealer, who had been watching from a distance, approached with a smile. "I've seen a lot of horses and riders in my time," he said, "but I've rarely seen a partnership like yours. You've both earned this." Jack nodded, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. "It wasn't easy," he said, "but it was worth every bit of struggle. She's remarkable, and I've learned more than I ever imagined." As night fell, Jack sat quietly under the stars, Bella resting nearby. He thought about the journey that had begun just days ago, the wild, spirited horse that had seemed impossible to control, the challenges that had tested his patience, and the moments of triumph that had built their bond. He realized that this was more than just training a horse. It was a journey of understanding, trust, and friendship. Jack reflected on the lessons he had learned. Patience was essential. Force would never build a true connection. Trust had to be earned, not demanded. And through it all, persistence and belief in one another had created something extraordinary. Bella was no longer just a horse to ride. She was a companion who had shared in the struggles, victories, and growth. In the following days, their partnership became well known in the town. People watched in admiration as Jack and Bella moved through the plains with confidence, grace, and unity. They were no longer just rider and horse. They were a team, moving in harmony, demonstrating the rewards of trust and dedication. For Jack, the journey had been transformative. He had set out seeking a horse, but he had gained so much more: a teacher, a partner, and a friend. Bella had challenged him, tested him, and in the process had taught him lessons that would last a lifetime. And for Bella, Jack had provided guidance, patience, and understanding, helping her transform from a spirited, unpredictable horse into a confident, skilled partner. As the days passed, Jack and Bella continued to ride together, exploring new trails, mastering new challenges, and enjoying the freedom of the open plains. Each ride reinforced their bond, and each obstacle they overcame together strengthened the partnership they had built. Looking back, Jack knew that the journey had been worth every struggle. The gamble of buying Bella, the hard days of training, and the moments of doubt had all led to something far greater than he could have imagined. He had found a true companion, and together they had achieved something remarkable. And so, under the endless sky of the plains, Jack and Bella rode on, side by side. Their journey was no longer just about training or challenges. It was about partnership, trust, and a bond that could not be broken. They had faced the hardest tests, and now they moved forward, confident, free, and stronger together than ever before.